Hey, hi guys. This is Thunder E from Work, and welcome to our X-Men Days of Future Past review. Sorry, I do have a slight cold here, and also I have a cough, so I'm drinking some tea, but of course, drinking it off my Marvel Heroes mug, so that should at least keep me energized for this review. So let's get things underway. I apologize if I start sniffling and sneezing a little bit, just because, like I said, I have a cold here. So let's begin. Now, this is a non-spoiler spoiler review, which means the first 3 minutes of this review, 3 4 minutes, will be non-spoiler, and then after that we jump into the spoilers. So if you don't want to listen to the spoilers after 3 minutes, then you don't have to. You can stop right there. So let's get into nitty gritty. X-Men: Days of Future Past is the latest X-Men movie from Bryan Singer. Bryan Singer is the guy who started the X-Men franchise with the first X-Men movie. X2, he wasn't there for X3. He wrote and produced X-Men First Class, which was his return to franchise after making the god awful Superman Returns, and then he's now directing this movie. So, what do I think of this movie? Now, if anyone knows me well, I'm not a fan of Bryan Singer. I really not because he destroys Superman Returns for me. So, what do I think of this movie? Off the bat, I actually liked it. I did like this movie. Now, if you're an X-Men fan and you know the comics, there are a lot of inconsistencies and plot holes and things like that. But from what they did with First Class and how this movie moves forward, this movie does a very good job in connecting actually everything in the whole X franchise, even X3. That's one of the things that this movie does. Because it's a time travel movie, it jumps back and it literally goes in to try and just basically piecing everything in the X-Men franchise. So the storyline was actually good and cohesive. It was cohesive enough where you could easily follow it. Especially with time travel movies, you think when you're jumping left and right, it might be crazy and things might get offhand. But this actually did a good job in actually making a very simple, cohesive nature in there. Now, a couple of things. All the characters that you saw at the very beginning, they said the opening sequences, people like Sunspot, Bishop, um, um, and Colossus, and even Halle Berry as Storm, they had minor scenes to this. A couple of action sequences with the Sentinels in the future, and that's it. Now, a lot of the story takes place back in the 70s, 1973 to be exact. Now, a couple of things here. Hugh Jackman, of course, is the connecting figure throughout this whole sequence, and as much as I myself will probably complain to and say why Wolverine all the time, it made sense for how it's done in this movie. It made sense, and it's very simple, and it makes sense because of who Wolverine is. So that also comes into play. Also, Professor X walking. It's one of the things I talked about in the trailer that he's walking around. It's just being a wheelchair. Also makes sense. They actually address that issue in there. Now, one of the cool things I have to tell everyone is this: that we all bitched and complained about Quicksilver in the trailers, especially with his funky retro style outfit and just his look. He was my favorite character in this movie. Quicksilver on in here was really cool. Now he is not like the Quicksilver that we know. Quicksilver in the Maximoff in the comic books is a very moody character, and I think he's lousy in general. Because to me, Flash is just awesome. I always compare the two, but this Quicksilver here, especially in his younger form, which I guess you could interpret in different ways, works very, very well. And I'm telling you that like you will enjoy Quicksilver. I'm going to spoil anything for you in the sense that of what he does, but how he shows his powers and how he actually runs fast and shows all that stuff works very well. And I actually liked it because I think Quicksilver was one of the funny highlights of this movie where people kind of just chuckled anytime he did anything. Excuse me, anytime he did anything, people just laughed and chuckled because he just found it fun because he was faster than everyone. So that was nice to see. That was nice to see there with Quicksilver. Also, I was gonna say, guys, if you have watched the movie, you want to chime in the Q&A, go ahead. Don't put in too many spoilers for people who haven't seen it, especially before the 3 minute mark. Anyway, the other thing too is that a couple of the actors in here. So Hugh Jackman, of course, plays Wolverine. And you also have Peter Dinklage as Bolivar Trask. He was great. That's the thing about Peter Dinklage. If you watch Game of Thrones, you know him. He is an awesome actor, and really that role, like if you read the comic, Bolivar Trask is not a short guy. He's not a dwarf. He's not small. It's actually just a regular sized dude, and Dinklage plays it to the T. Really does, and he just does a good job in knocking it out of the park. And he does. He basically just puts more life into that character, because that guy could be like super evil and like I want to kill mutants, but no, I mean this dude just laid it nice and clean in there, and it's just great. It was great. It was a great job putting him there and casting wise. Another main character here is Mystique. Mystique is tied a lot into this movie. I'm not going to explain too much because it's part of the plot, but you know, you have Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, and you know what? I've come to, you know, I was a little fuzzy on her as Mystique, or not fuzzy, but touch and go. Excuse me, with the first class, but I think she's done a very good job as Mystique, you know, and grown into that character. So it was good to see her, and also just her as she continues and portrays that. The action sequences were cool. A lot of people talked about it before I actually watched it. Said it had great action sequences. They were cool. To me, the standard of action sequences is Man of Steel, but this is actually good, especially just showing the power levels, especially someone like Magneto and how he just was like, you know, using stuff. It was still very cool special effects. Some special effects in certain scenes looked bad to me. There was one particular scene that involved lightning with Storm that just did not look that cool, which was, you know, I don't know, it just didn't actually sit well with me. Now all the stuff in the future, that whole world just looked so cool because there was so much despair. That's one thing Bryan Singer I think can do well, especially if you remember the first X-Men movies where he actually what do you call it again? Showed the Nazi concentration camps, and yeah, it's the same kind of feel where everything just looks very just dark, and you're like, this world sucks, you know. And he does that well, so he really sets the tone for like, okay, we need to go back to a time where it doesn't suck, and we can fix this all around, all together. So that's what this movie really, you know, does. It really jumps in and goes into that. Now, in terms of cleaning up all the messes from the X-Men franchise, it does and it doesn't. You know, I mean, like I was hoping this movie would literally just go and like do a rewrite, and it doesn't. It actually pays homage to all the mess that has been the X-Men franchise. And to a certain degree, I actually liked the fact that he did that. I mean, I was shocked, but I liked the fact that, you know, they said, you know what, there are some things part of our franchise that we did well, and you know, we should just pay homage to. So yeah, overall it was a good movie. It was solid, and you know, as a movie it worked very well. Now I've passed 3 minutes already, and I said I would do 3 minutes of non-spoiler. I actually did about 7 minutes of non-spoiler. So there you have it. X-Men Days of Future Past is a solid movie. To my surprise, as an X-Men fan, you know what? In this world, Bryan Singer does a good job in actually bringing and fleshing a solid movie with multiple characters very, very well. Some characters have very little screen time compared to others, but he sets the precedent up well enough so you know that certain characters will not have large enough screen time, and that's just it. You know, that's just how it's going to be. So let's move on to the spoilers. Yes, let's get to spoilers. Some of the nitty gritty in this movie. Like I said, my favorite character in this was actually Quicksilver. He doesn't have the longest screen time here in this movie. Again, spoilers, guys. I'm going to start talking spoilers. He doesn't have the longest screen time here in this movie. But what I liked about Quicksilver is that he was a fun character. You know, as a speedster, most speedsters are usually fun. Maximoff is not as fun. Now, a couple of things here in this. He's related to Magneto. He is Magneto's son. But the way it's set up in this movie, he doesn't know. There's a scene where he goes, what do you do? He asks Magneto, he's like, yeah, I can move metal. Oh, no, I heard you can move metal. That's what he was saying. He's like, yeah. And the Magneto says yes. And then he goes, oh, yeah, my mom used to date a guy who moved metal. And the whole audience chuckles because we know that's his dad right there. And even so, in this case, Magneto doesn't know that basically he knocked up his mom and then she had a kid that was pretty much Quicksilver. That's it. You know, but it was nice to actually address that without actually putting too much into it. Say, oh, this is my son, blah, 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 this and that. And maybe because it was the rights with Marvel and things like that. So that was actually cool. The sequences with Quicksilver, where he runs, is awesome because he actually takes it. Basically, because he's so fast, everything's so slow, and he can really focus on that with this movie. Now, in terms of plot holes, one of the biggest plot holes, I'm sure you guys know this. I don't know how Kitty Pryde can send anyone back into the past. I really don't. I have no idea, because she can phase through walls. But you know what? For movie purposes, it worked anyway, because basically they threw in, that in there. Hey, how's it going, Rod?
Hey, what's up?
Not much. So Rod's joining us here. I've entered into the spoiler segment of the of the hangout, so it's completely.
That's fine. I was working on my lighting wasn't working. That's why I was a little tardy. Had to improvise.
Second, there we go. Hello, hello. Oh, yeah, there we go. So I just
Yeah.
had to change my microphone. For some reason, it kept on going to my webcam here. Google Hangouts keeps changing this all the time. But anyway, hopefully you guys heard me clearly at the very beginning, the first 6 minutes of this. No, my mic was working. It was just the very first part. So the other thing too is um, okay, so it does work. I'm just playing it. So I'm talking non-spoilers here. I was going to say that I started off by saying my best character in this movie was Quicksilver.
I was about to say.
Quicksilver
And
was
here we thought it was going to be probably like looking at his costume like, oh, he's going to be terrible.
yeah. I mean, I won't be shocked that he is better than the Quicksilver in the Avengers. Because the way Quicksilver was done in this movie, he was fun. I mean, like, I guess in our mindset, most speedsters are supposed to be fun characters because they're fast. They run, they stop.
They
You know,
typically all are, except I
yeah,
think he's probably the one who's not. But
yeah, exactly, yeah. Quicksilver in the comic books is a moody character. It's like, he's making faces and stuff like that. So this one, he was fun. I mean, I mentioned earlier, they actually mentioned that he is Magneto's son without actually touching it. Because he rescues Magneto, and he's like, "Oh, what are you here for?" He's like, "For killing the president." He's like, "Oh, okay." And he goes like, "So I heard you can, bend metal." He's like, "Yes." He's like, "Oh, my mom used to date a guy like that," and that was just it. I was like, "Oh, okay. You know what? I'm glad you respected it, and you didn't actually, because maybe you couldn't because of the whole Marvel deal, but at least you
oh
just
yeah,
mentioned it in there, and everybody knows. Okay, he knocked her up, and he didn't know that's his son. Simple, and she
he's
just
out.
didn't know where it was.
He's
Done.
out.
Exactly. So that was cool to see with that one. Wolverine was solid as always. Hugh Jackman, but I think he actually brought more life to this role of Wolverine than in past incarnations of the X-Men franchise altogether. So I think that was cool to see. The other thing too is I was talking about Kitty Pryde. Now, help me out here. I don't know how Kitty Pryde can send anyone to the past. I
That's
really
what I'm saying.
don't.
I'm not sure where her abilities that lie into, unless they're gonna say in time it evolved or some crap. But
I have no idea, but for the movie purpose, it still worked as much as it is. Like I'm sitting down here, I'm actually impressed with Bryan Singer's work for this movie. As much as I do not like Bryan Singer, I actually would say this is the best X-Men movie in the franchise, completely the best one, because it didn't. I mean, put it this way: whether he messes up characters and how they are placed in timelines or selection, if you take it from this movie extends from First Class,
yeah,
it's a solid movie. If you take it as a traditional X-Men movie, there are a lot of things you just be like, come on.
plot
But
hole.
yeah, potholes. But in terms of for what he's done in this movie, it's on point. Like it's really balanced and solid. The other thing too here was they actually addressed almost every film in the franchise in terms of flashbacks of like remembering different things and things like it was very quick, but they actually just took scenes from like they even took scenes from X3 when Wolverine like killed Jean
Gene.
Grey. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, really, you accept that movie? Okay, all
Just part
right.
of the timeline, like, oh, that never happened. What are you
Yeah,
talking
exactly. No, exactly. They actually respected their whole shitty timeline and they rearranged it, but they didn't rearrange it anyway. So it's the way they ended the movie. It was like, okay, everybody lived at the end. I'm just gonna spoil it right now. I'm telling you, when I say
about?
everybody lives,
Yeah.
you're gonna see Cyclops at the end. You're gonna see Jean Grey at the end. So yeah, they're all alive, and this is like the new future that they've recreated because of ending the Sentinel program altogether. Mystique is a huge part of this movie. I mean, huge. I mean, she has because and it actually makes sense. It's again maybe Bryan Singer read a few comic books this time and try to piece it together because the Sentinels in the past were made from a polymer hybrid, so they had to be made from plastic and ceramic because if you use metal, Magneto is just screw it up completely. So
Yeah.
that's why they look plasticky, and I
kind of forgave them about them, but I mean, they could have done things to the design where it didn't
They
look
could
that
look like bad toys.
that like bad toys in general. Then the ones in the future were made from um, spoiler here again, big one. It's spoiler section anyway. What's her name again? Um, Mystique's DNA, because she's the only one in the Marvel universe who can actually morph or change into someone else to a full identical copy.
Yeah, not just
Everyone
on the outside.
No,
Yeah,
the outside, yeah. So her DNA was used to actually create the future Sentinels, and those future Sentinels are badass, man. Like literally, to the point where it was like there's one scene where at the very beginning where they're all fighting, and Sunspot like fires a Sentinel, and he's stopping it, and he's firing, with his fire. Which okay, Sunspot is technically has the power of the sun. He should have just gone like 10,000 degrees Celsius
yeah,
and crisp the thing. But as he's doing that, Bishop and what's her name, Kitty Pryde, are running through a safe, because the whole idea in the future is that, and and again, the first time Bryan Singer actually recognized the fact that X-Men are a team.
yes,
You have to work as a team. So in the future, that one scene we all saw, the first fight scene, was basically this. The way it's set up, like they came and attacked. Kitty Pryde's running into a safe, and she's trying to send Bishop back in time. And then the other X-Men are like trying to stop the Sentinels. Iceman is freezing the Sentinel, and then finally the Sentinels realize the power they're dealing with, and the Sentinel starts getting warm and hot and really hot, and then basically just starts using heat on Iceman and snaps his neck off like an icicle,
yeah.
like that. Drops it and
It's
steps
dropping
on
like
it.
flies in the beginning.
It pretty much pretty much does that. But and then Kitty Pryde was like, "You're too late," and basically they go back in the past. And what it was that Warpath, because he can see very far, he can sense things very far, could recognize when the Sentinels were coming. And when he recognizes they're coming ahead of time, they all basically, she now sends Bishop, she can send Bishop back in time like a week or a couple of days, and he warns them that that location at that time Sentinels are coming, so go somewhere else. So that's how they were evading Sentinels constantly on a constant basis. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. Like, the whole team is there to just protect Kitty Pryde and Bishop at that time. Now Bishop did not do much at all. If you're a Bishop fan, you will be disappointed, because it was literally, he's like, all he did was like, hit me, and then he just fires, and that's a couple of times. Yeah, here's a problem. He, Sunspot, Colossus, Blink was actually useful, even though she said like 3 lines. But her use, because she opened up all these different wormholes or teleportation paths for people, was actually used well in fighting. So that I liked about Blink. Halle Berry was, oh my god, so underused in this movie. Rogue, oh yes, Rogue, right? They showed Rogue for 3 seconds. She was in this movie for 3 seconds. 3 seconds exactly. And that was at the end when the whole future was reset altogether. That's it. That's all you see of Rogue. If you're wondering what happened to her, she was cut and not cut. So she had 3 seconds screen time, so she was in the movie, I guess. You can call it that. Altogether.
Yeah, she got
Exactly, right. So that, I mean, that's there in there. So we'll see how it plays. But I mean, overall, I think I will have to give Bryan Singer, and I found the fans. There was a fan who was saying we had this discussion. He was like, X-Men would be the better movie out of this is Spider-Man. I humbly agree. X-Men was a better movie. Now, a lot of people have said this movie is awesome and fantastic. I'll say it's a very, very good movie. Even for the X-Men franchise, it's a very good X-Men movie. It's the best one in there. My problem in the movie was the action sequences were good. There were nothing spectacular. Maybe because, like I said, for me, Man of Steel has raised that action bar. So when I'm watching Mystique kick people around and like Magneto is just raising metal here and there, I'm like,
yeah. Like,
I'm
even was it better on a smaller scale action kind of.
What do you say?
I said Winter Soldier had even the action on that was kind of like a little more impressive. It was like,
Yeah. Winter Soldier had that. I mean, the only parts that I enjoyed was like that opening sequence because then you got to see Iceman and Sunspot like really try and max out their powers against the Sentinels, and even Colossus. Colossus was being like a little kid though, kind of sad. I mean, this is Colossus we're talking about, man. This is supposed to be the muscle guy in the X-Men. I mean,
Hey,
granted, Juggernaut will beat him also, but just saying, and the Hulk too. But
well,
that
yeah,
being said, he's supposed to be like he's like up there, like top five, in terms of muscle group. But yeah, he was whipped. This is call it that all the way. But yeah, it was good.
just
It
like
was.
use them in X2. Sorry.
What do you say? Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
like I use him in X2. Like he was there, and it's like, oh, you don't see him, and he turned, and it was like, oh, that's it. All right.
yeah. No. This one he actually throws a bunch of punches. He does a lot of fights, but I mean the Sentinels just there was one where he threw a punch. Sentinel cut his hand like this. It was like cracked it. And now I wouldn't spoil the way he dies. I mean, that he dies. In the future, I wouldn't spoil it because you got to see it because it was really like you're like Colossus. Ugh. Sorry, man. Colossus is one of the characters I really enjoyed. And see one of the things I wish they reset in the movie because it resets back to Rogue and Iceman dating, which is like way back in X2, right?
Yeah.
Um, and to me, that's like they should have cut that out. Like it should have been Iceman should be dating Kitty Pryde. I'm fine with that, because if you're going to introduce Gambits in there, Gambit and Rogue storyline is so intertwined.
Yeah, but would you like to see this version of Gambit with this version of Rogue? It's kind of that. I don't
No,
know.
no, no. This version of Gambit, yes, as in what's his name?
Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum. You know what? I thought about that too. Like Channing Tatum as Gambit, if he plays it a little bit like I kid you not. Now, just hear me out. If he plays a little bit like the character from 21 Jump Street, especially does that like messing around, because Gambit can mess around, like just joke around. He plays a little bit of that, but with a like a sly tone to it. That's a cool version of Gambit. But I agree, not with this version of Rogue. Like
Yeah, that's the
whatever,
thing.
doesn't
I'm
matter
having fun.
whatever Gambit you have, just not with
Yeah.
this version of Rogue.
No, they need a better Rogue.
Yeah, they need to just. I agree with you there. I mean, I wish that you know, Gambit and that it was mixed in, but that wasn't reset in there, so you don't have that. And also again, because in the comic books, the only other than Gambit, the only person who actually fully dated Rogue was Colossus.
Yeah, that's right.
Because for some reason in the comics, when Colossus turned metal, her powers did not affect him.
So he's like, oh, cool, let's get it in.
Yeah, exactly. so yeah, that was the case there. But I mean, it was a good movie. I will say, like, I actually enjoyed X-Men: Days of Future Past. I was going in there with all the hate possible. Because like I said, I'm not a Bryan Singer fan. Like, other than Usual Suspect, the first X-Men movie, even X-Men First Class, I didn't like X-Men First Class for one specific reason. X-Men First Class is the first class of X-Men. If you ever read the comic book, I thought that was a chance to just reboot the franchise and recast it as Cyclops, Jean, Angel with wings, not with insect wings,
Metal. Yeah.
Beast, and Iceman, the
Iceman.
original five. Started off there, and then include Wolverine. You can always include Wolverine because his timeline can intersect. If you want to include Wolverine, be my guest. But they didn't even include Wolverine in that movie because they came to Wolverine and he's like, fuck off. So that to me was like, oh, that's perfect. And then they recast it and they put Havoc in there as his younger brother who is older than him. Havoc is older in this timeline.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Bryan Singer, why are you trying to mess this up for us? Like, come on, this is not what it's supposed to be. We have a comment here from Agent Sambora. Once future Wolverine goes back in his body, do you think past Wolverine will understand what has happened? Nope. They didn't address it that way, and it's fine. They just kind of said his future self mindset overtook that, and they explained why Wolverine was picked. Very simple. I won't spoil that just because it's nice to just keep some things away. But they explained why, and it made sense. Like again, like the first time Bryan Singer is actually using his common sense in his movies. And then Agent and Sambora says, "Is it me, or did it not explain how Professor X was back from the dead in the future, or did I miss something? Back from the dead."
X3 where Jean kind of and then he woke up in somebody else's body, and it's like, all right.
Oh
Well,
yeah, yeah. Thank you, thank you. They just were like,
I'm back. Think you missed me? But
they
how? I'm back. Don't be asking me questions.
they completely skipped that altogether. Now, one of the things there is that in this movie you find that I think it was a very bad plot device was um, when Wolverine goes back to convince Professor X to help them. He's like, I'm in a very bad place in my life. The reason why he was in a very bad place made no sense to me at all. It was just kind of like they had to write something to show that Professor X was like, bummed out, and he became a druggie. Just call it that. You find out what he was, but he became a druggie. I'll tell you that. It was a little bad plot device, but it still worked, for the movie. But I mean, like I said, the movie was entertaining. You really, really enjoy it. As an X-Men fan, there's some things you nitpick, but it honestly is not that much. Now, make sure you stay to the very end,
Please do.
because there is a glimpse to Apocalypse. I'm just gonna call it out right now. Although to me, as a teaser glimpse, the special effects for that were cheesy. It looked like something from Stargate.
Right.
Yeah.
Ran out. Like, oh, damn! Like we used up all the money in Sentinel.
Exactly.
Something.
But pretty much, you get to see Apocalypse in. It doesn't look like. I mean, you say Apocalypse, and then you get to see the Four Horsemen. But the Four Horsemen, you just see four guys on horses. I'm just explaining it, and you see it. It's still cool. You still see it. Viola Minyam says Cable needs to be in the future X-Men movies. I agree, but I mean, just to explain the Cable storyline, the fact that he is okay. I mean, I think in the movie sense, they will just say he's the son from Cyclops and Jean from the future. Just call it that.
Don't do the
the alternate
the other chick, the other Jean Grey clone.
Yeah, the clone. Don't do that. I agree with that. I mean, if you do Cable, the problem is that you've just done Bishop, and Bishop just didn't do anything. I mean, like, the actor who played Bishop, I've seen him in some other stuff. He's actually a really good actor, but it was just like, for having Bishop for Bishop's sake, that's it. And I understand why they picked Bishop, because the way his powers works, but it didn't make sense. Joseph Hampton Jr. says, "Yep, the teaser was weak. The teaser at the very end, yeah, it was not as exciting as I would have expected. I mean, you could tell it was all about Apocalypse, but didn't really give you the it didn't give you the sense. Even when they showed Thanos at the end of Avengers, you're like, oh yeah, like this was kind of like, this is Apocalypse. This is the other. I mean, technically, in the world of comic books, there are three bad guys who mean death, right? Mm-hmm. There's Darkseid in DC. There's Apocalypse. So four. My bad. There is Thanos, and then there's Galactus. But Galactus is more like I just stroll around and eat planets. I don't really care about anything else. But it was it was one of those teasers where you're like, man, I wish they had put a little bit more effort into it, into that, but it was still fine. It was one of those that it was passable for what this movie was in total. So I'd say, guys, definitely go watch it. It was fun. I'm surprised. I'm sitting out here still saying it again. I'm actually surprised. I will go see it again. It's just how good it was. I'll go see it again. Best X-Men franchise movie, best Bryan Singer movie other than Usual Suspects.
Yeah.
I can officially. No, I can't forgive him. No, I still can't forgive him for Superman Returns. No, I that was just a low blow completely. Yeah. But I can officially forgive him for the crappy. Even people like X2. I don't. To me, X2 was one of those movies where he had a nice setup, but then he knocked out Cyclops for like half the movie. Cyclops has been treated like a complete bitch in this movie. Let me just state that right now in this whole franchise.
Entire franchise. He's this, Gene.
Oh yeah, and that shows up too in the end. In that very end scene where Cyclops is back, that whole Gene is there. It's
back.
and the funny thing, Wolverine is like, some things never change. I was like, yeah, you got that one right.
Yeah, you didn't get the girl.
yeah. So it's one of those. Viola says Valkyrie was pretty good. Remember that movie by Bryan Singer, the one about the Germans, who tried
I,
to overthrow?
I didn't watch it because it was a Tom Cruise movie. I'm not a big Tom
Oh yeah,
Cruise
you're not Tom Cruise fan. I mean,
fan.
I watch. I'm a Tom Cruise fan. I watched it. The problem with that movie is whenever you're doing Germans, you gotta have a German accent, or see, they either sounded like Tom Cruise or British. They were so. I mean, it was like loaded with British actors, but no one decided to do an accent. So I was
Oh,
just like, I don't consider you evil or. I mean, you're German. You're supposed to be the. I mean, the Germans back then they were supposed to be like the evil guys. I wasn't scared or I didn't feel any intent. I was like, okay.
let's have some tea or something.
Yeah, exactly. So that was that. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, guys, just round it up. Thank you very much for joining Rod. I really appreciate it. Check out Rod Scott at Tech Guy Smart Buys. He's got a great site, great stuff in terms of content. Definitely check it out. Also, follow him on YouTube and Twitter is Tech Guy Smart Buy. Sorry, see, I said Tech Buy. Yeah. It's Tech Guy Smart Buy. That's the channel. Check it out.
Yep.
And also, yeah, don't forget to subscribe to Border Work. Top right hand corner of the screen, description below. It's a Border Work there. And yeah, leave your thoughts. If you've watched X-Men First Class, let me know what you think in there. You can leave spoilers. Now it's done. It's done. If you're watching this again, remember I told you the first 3 minutes I actually give you 6 minutes of non-spoiler, and then the other 24 minutes is now 30 minutes in. 24 minutes, it's all spoilers in there. And it's actually not much. I still didn't spoil a lot of things, but I'll tell you this. The best character in there is Quicksilver.
Easy.
I have to, yeah,
Easy.
he's easy the best. Even his funky retro 70s outfit, I was like, that's cool, man. It's 70s. I get it. But the images they released, I was like, ooh, this is not cool at all. But it works in this movie. So anyway, guys, leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think about X-Men Days of Future Past. And also if you're excited for the sequel, which will be coming out, Age of Apocalypse. Or is it Age of Apocalypse or just Apocalypse?
I think it's just Apocalypse. They didn't. They've been tiptoeing around whether it be Age of Apocalypse or not. But,
They should just call it Age of what it is. Look at DC. They just went Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. Just tell look, this is the prequel to Justice League. Take it or leave it. So don't even dance around like titles. Just do it. But I will say though, this movie is giving me faith that at least the comic book movie industry is not teetering, because I thought Fox's movies were going to be the weakest link with X-Men, but
yeah.
X-Men has been pretty good. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. Subscribe to our channels, Tech Guy Smart Buy, as well as Border Work, and leave your comments about X-Men Days of Future Past. All right, peace.